What up?
Hey. Hey.
Wow.
It suits you.
I feel that, the Jerry, the chanting, the talk show.
Wow.
Morning, church family. My name's Jerry, if we haven't met yet, and I'm so excited to be here with y'all. My wife and I have been coming to this church for almost a year now, which is really awesome to think about. I'm a science teacher at Merida Valley High School, but more importantly, I'm just here, a member of the church, just like you all. We have a baby boy right now. He's 1 year old, and he's walking, he's talking, he's drooling. He's just the best. Today, I just want to share our hope, our mission, our goal with you all, and that's for you to be here with us and for us to help you experience God every single day. To us, God wants to be here with you on Sundays, but he wants to be with you every day, not just Sunday. He wants to be with you in those little moments when you get that exciting promotion. He wants to be with you for that first time you don't stub your toe on that chair in the corner of your house. He even wants to be with you when you're watching Sing 2. Yes, this is very real. This happened this week. And that dad gorilla is just so proud of his son, singing on stage and saying, "That's my son."
Yeah, come on.
So for today, if you're new with us, we're so excited to have you here. And we love to get to know you, get to meet you. So after service today, if you want to head out to that White Connect tent, our pastors, Casey and Aimee, would love to get to know you. And just for being here today, we'd love to give you a little gift. So come check us out. Today is going to be a really special day. But before I get there, I want to remind you that we're in the midst of this teaching series called Relationship Goals. And in life, there are so many things that can affect you and change you and just be a defining factor in your life. But there's nothing more to that than the relationships in your life that can affect you, both in a positive and in a negative way. What we're doing in this series is to try to help you navigate those relationships and help you cultivate the right ones.
That's good.
God wants us to have life-giving friendships, successful dating relationships, fun and intimate marriages, and healthy families. And that's what God wants for you. So for today, we're going to do a little something different. I'm excited to get to be a part of it. And so I'd like to welcome you to the late show.
Oh my.
Your host, Jerry Lamb. Today, we have our pastors, Casey and Aimee. Go ahead and welcome them to the stage for us. Yeah, give it up for them. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about marriage, and we're going to put them in the hot seats, literally. We've told you all, we've got some questions that we think are a little juicy, and we're excited to get to know Casey and Aimee a little bit more. Learn a little bit more.
Don't worry. We'll keep it PG, so we'll keep it PG.
But we're going to have some fun today, and we're hoping that you like this little change in format, change in sermon, and hope you enjoy it. Yeah? So let's go ahead and start today. Casey and Aimee, will you tell us a little bit about yourselves? But specifically, my question to you is, when people think of Casey and Aimee, what do you actually want them to think? What do you want them to know?
Aimee wants to answer this question.
I'm definitely going to let you go first. Okay, so the first thing that comes to my mind, I had thought about this before, but when you actually said that, the first thing that came to my mind is that we are fun, which sounds not very meaningful, but there's a level of deep meaning that I think that holds with what you and I bring together. Whether it's in our family or when we interact, that there's a level of freedom to have fun and to celebrate and life as it is. If I were to ask for, like, what do I want people to know about Aimee? Honestly, if I were to kind of reframe the question a little bit, like, what do I want people to experience when they meet me? Or what do they walk away with? And like at the deepest level of who I am, I really, really want people to feel seen and known. And when I meet somebody, that's my heart, is I want people to not just be a face in the crowd or a hi and bye, but to really make that space and create a level of knowing with people.
I love that. Very intentional.
Yeah, thank you. What about you?
I think one of the uniquenesses of being a pastor, and even the temptations is to be one person on stage and another person off of the stage. And I think for me, I want people, especially my kids, to see the same man. And so when I'm on the stage, hopefully my personality and humanity comes out, but hopefully when I'm off the stage, you see that same person. And I think that's a personal goal, but I think that that's something that I want for you to experience or people to experience about you and I. So there you go.
Yeah, can I add one fun fact? If you were to, something you may not know about me, I don't know if you prepared this. Someday, one of my bucket list goals is to be on Price is Right. Yeah, that one. And then
Good trial run. Good trial run.
also, I really, before I go to heaven, I want to see Bigfoot with my own eyes. Those are it. Those are fun facts about me.
This just got unspiritual real fast.
Hey, if you know Casey and Aimee and you agree that they're a fun couple, give me a woo woo.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
love that. So this idea that we're going to go through is I'm going to give you some questions. Feel free to answer them as is. If you need me to repeat them, go for it. But I might throw in some curveballs as well. Yeah? So I want to do one last question before we get into the meat of it. I want to know, what are some of the things that you went into your marriage actually prepared for? Because everybody goes into marriage all excited, you're in that honeymoon phase, and you're like, we got this, we can rule the world. We are the power couple of the world, right? Yeah. You go into it ready and prepared with some stuff. So what are those things that you actually went into marriage prepared for? But what are also some of the examples of things that you just found out you were not ready for at all?
Yeah.
We weren't ready for marriage. Oh my gosh. I was 21 and she was 20 when we got married. I think a couple of things that we worked out, we did like some, premarital coaching, like not counseling, but like coaching, like, hey, here's some conversations that you need to have before you jump in to marriage. And I think one of those that we worked through pretty well was kind of like the role that you'll play, or the roles that you'll play, and the roles that I'll play in our marriage. I felt like we had some really meaningful conversations about that. And though we've made adjustments to that through the years, I felt like we were able to get some level of like meaningful conversations about those, so that when there was tension in those early years about what you were doing versus what I was doing, I feel like we were able to handle those in a way that was less emotional.
Yeah.
From Casey, right? Less emotional.
Casey.
I am clearly the more emotional one. I'll just be straight.
I would say, for me personally, while we did work through some things and we had some coaching, there's like this buffer when you're dating, and the reality of our differences really kind of settled in a way that I was not prepared for us to come together, and not just the who rolls the toothpaste up the right way, but really like how we interact and the friendships that we carry, and introvert versus extrovert, whatever all those things were. Those took some adjusting, I think, for us.
Let me just take you back.
Okay.
I'm going to it. 3 months into our marriage, we both basically confessed to the other person, we think we made a mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's how bad it got. Like, it was so, like, I was a brand new youth pastor at a church, and I had all these expectations that I put on myself. And so there were so many struggles that I was keeping to me without sharing them with anyone. And so I was dealing with pain all by myself. Aimee was dealing with pain all by herself. The other part was I was in this awesome small group of guys who were all not married. And I did not want to ruin the idea of marriage to them by sharing my struggles with them. Yeah. And so while we worked very hard and took our relationship very serious, after about that 3-month mark, our pastor, if he was up here, he would be like, we didn't think their marriage was going to make it.
Yeah.
It was really it was dark.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, that's what's awesome about marriage, right? That you share in the good times, but you share in the dark times too, and kind of help each other through it. And I love hearing that you guys did that.
yeah.
I think something that's interesting, I mean, I told you I was a teacher, right? I've had students ask me, how do you know when someone's the one? Like, how do you know when you want to marry someone? And my answer has always held true to them. It's always been, well, when you can't imagine your life without this person, that's your person. That's your best friend, and they should be your best friend. It's someone that you always want to hang out with, someone that you always want to be with, and you just can't imagine life without. And I think that you found that, and that's awesome.
Sweet.
I love that. So tell us a little bit about some of those important rhythms that you guys have implemented that kind of help keep things moving, help keep the marriage alive and healthy and happy. What are some of the things that you've implemented into your marriage and your life?
Good.
Do you want me to
Start with it? Yeah.
Yeah. I would also say, in response to the question, what were you prepared for? I feel like this is one of those pieces that we went into marriage pretty well prepared. We were thinking about things like, when are we going to spend time with God? When are we going to go on a date?
Yeah.
When are we going to take days off? What does vacation look like? And by the way, when you have kids, vacation is when you go away without your kids, right? Because when you go with your kids, it's exhausting. It's exhausting, right? You're making family memories, and that's an investment, but it's not a vacation. So those are some things that for us. So we try to go on 2 dates a month. We're just in a stage of life that's a little bit busy. When we were younger and had less kids, we would try to go every week. But now we have enough dollars budgeted for 2 date nights a month. And we have built-in babysitting, so we've elevated somebody's allowance to pay for the babysitting. And we try to get away by ourselves at least one time a year. So those are some rhythms that we have instilled. I also think financially, like we have a financial rhythm. It's not always like, hey, every 3 to 6 months we're talking about the finances, but there are seasons where it's like, hey, it might be time to revisit our budget. We need a little bit money here, and we may not need enough, the same amount of money over here. So let's revisit our budget. And so a couple times a year, we have a rhythm where we're talking finances. Do you want to speak about rhythms?
Yeah, specifically when talking about date night. For us, we've kind of, figured out what that looks like for us. And because of the way that we're wired and our personalities, I don't tend to be somebody that likes to have the deep, heavy discussions a lot. Like, I need to be up here in order to get filled with that lighthearted fun.
I'm like, hey, let's talk about our biggest goals,
And I'm like, So for us, we realized that when we would go on a date, they would be heavy. We'd be like, hey, let's talk about the things we need to talk about. And I was like, So we recognized that specifically for us, again, it's different for everybody, but for us, it needed to be experiences that we do alongside each other that are fun and lighthearted, and a way for us to connect, and then create space for heavy or intentional or maybe meaningful in a way that is a little bit more forward-moving outside of the date.
Yeah, we wanted to use our date night to connect and not do the business meeting on our date night. And then I'm just gonna say the S word one time, okay? So sex, okay? I'm gonna keep it PG, but I will say this. I'm not gonna tell you our rhythm, okay? But I do want to say that it's important to have meaningful conversations around sex, so that both partners feel respected and heard. Okay, your marriage is not your friend's marriage. Okay, and so just because your friend has that rhythm doesn't mean that rhythm is going to be valuable to your spouse. Okay, so this is just one of those areas that can be really, really emotional, and sensitive, and so it's really important to have have those conversations outside of moments where you're thinking about having sex, okay? There you go. How's that? I did a pretty good job.
You did very good.
Amy, Amy's always nervous whenever I like talk about those things that inappropriate things will come out.
Yeah.
So,
Young
You did
adults,
good.
for the record,
Yes.
2 dates a month as parents is a lot.
Yeah.
Parents, am I right?
Yeah.
Am I right? That's awesome. You know what? We probably are curious. I know I am. What are some fun things you do on your dates? Don't talk about the S. We don't want to hear that. What are some fun things you do on your dates? Give us a couple.
I'm just going to say this. So, we are fun. Okay? We are fun. Amy's really fun, and I'm really fun. But one of the things, here's the humanity, okay? One of the areas that we've fallen short as a couple is having fun together on a regular basis. In fact, our rhythm right now tends to be like heavy responsibility, kids, church, finances, and then like numbing activity. Netflix, you know, like drink a glass of wine and whatever, right? Our counsel, and for both of us, we've been trying to figure out, man, there's like this missing thing in our marriage right now. And our counselor's like, well, it sounds to me like you just need to have fun together.
Yeah.
And so for Aimee and I, we are accepting ideas for what fun things we can do together outside of like eating food, because that's pretty much all we do on our dates is we go out.
Good food.
Yeah, we do have a standard. So anyway, so we'll get back to you on the fun things that we do, but that's a number one priority in our marriage this summer is to have fun together.
Together, yeah.
I like it. Well, your next question is this. In life, in marriage, we all have expectations, right? We want to go see a movie, we want it to be good. We want to go out to a restaurant, it's got to be yummy. We have these expectations, right? But when we enter marriage, there's this backpack full of expectations that you come in with. And this idea is interesting because it can go well, but it can also not go so well. So talk to us about the role of expectations within marriage. I know you covered it a little bit, but what are some of the expectations that maybe you two went into for each other, for yourselves?
Yeah.
Well, what do you encourage in the role of expectations? Share with us some of your wisdom.
That's good. Do you want to do your ham thing? Because I think it's really helpful. And then I'll talk a little bit.
Sure, I'll explain this and then just cut me off. Okay. There are 3 boxes, if you will. There are marriages that are represented or could be represented by an H, where each, the husband and the wife, are the upright version of the H, right? And if the other person does not meet your expectations, or leaves, or doesn't show up on time, or, you know, heaven forbid, passes away, the other side of the H is unaffected because there's an unhealthy level of independence. Does that make sense? There's a lack of connection. Okay? On the other side of the spectrum, you have a marriage that's represented by the letter A, where each person is the slanted version of the A. And if the other person doesn't meet your expectations, is late, or heaven forbid passes away, then the other side of the A just collapses because there is a heavy codependence on the other person. Is this making sense? Yeah. Right? So then, rather than controlling your own life, the other spouse is actually controlling your life, whether they know it or not. Okay? And there's a bunch of different reasons for that. But what we're striving for when it comes to marriage is a healthy interdependence, right? This kind of a marriage can be represented by the letter M. So, you know, you got like
Not gonna lie, I'm picturing him as a cheerleader.
that.
He was.
Okay, that's another conversation for another day. Okay? And so each person is the other half of the M, and if there's unmet expectations, or there's disappointment, or there's an argument, or the person goes away some way, shape, or form. While there is a slight shift for the other person doesn't collapse, okay? So the goal in our marriage is to find that healthy interdependence where we are connected and affected by the other person, but we're not controlled. Is this making sense? Yeah. Okay.
Good, very good. I appreciate that analogy and that picture. For us, we've actually been growing a lot in this area, and we've come to learn the way that we both kind of fall in our desire for independence and interdependence. Now, I tend to be somebody who I really appreciate my independence and my autonomy. And Casey would lean a little bit more in that interconnectedness. And so we really have had to navigate what does that look like for us. When it comes to expectations that you have on your spouse, they can become a source of disappointment for the person who has the expectations. And quite honestly, they can become suffocating on the person that the expectations are placed upon. And so a little bit like what Casey was talking about, the goal is to be able to come alongside one another and to champion, to cheerlead, to support and encourage and uplift the person in the direction that they're going and how God created them to be, without them having to be anything for you, without them having to do anything to make you okay. So it's this dance of really kind of figuring out ownership over who you are and what your needs and desires are, while also expressing what you desire to your partner without them having to fulfill that and you not being okay if they don't. Does that make sense? The other thing that we've learned recently from our counselor, which I thought...
We're growing just like you,
Yep,
right? We haven't written the book yet. We haven't written the book. Well, yeah.
So one thing that I found really helpful that our counselor was helping us understand with this is you've got me and you've got him. And then you have this kind of unspoken little space in between that you could call like our usness. And instead of figuring out like, you need to advocate for your needs and my needs, and if you don't meet mine, then I'm not okay, actually prioritizing our usness, and it's the thing that makes us better. It's the piece of Casey and the piece of me that comes together in our parenting that would not be as good without both of our qualities in it. It's that kind of unspoken piece, and as you nurture and you grow and you invest in that place, you naturally balance each other out and you want the best for each other.
Compliment.
I did say balance.
You said
it's
balance.
a natural word for me. He likes compliment better, which is true. You do. You bring out the best in each other, not feeling like you have to compensate. So.
Yeah, let me just speak to balance versus complimenting. Balance oftentimes in our minds says, my spouse has a weakness, and so I need to come on the other side with this unhealthy strength projection. Does that make sense? So Casey's really loud and obnoxious, so Aimee has to like babysit. You know, it's like I'm not necessarily doing it healthy, and she's not doing it healthy. So the idea is, how can we do it our way? How can Casey use his strengths and Aimee use his strengths to create this new reality called our us-ness, if you will, right?
Yeah, I think that's good.
And can I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
On decisions too, oftentimes when it comes to making decisions like how are we going to do this or how are we going to do this in our family or in our marriage, rather than say are we going to do it my way or are we going to do it your way, take those two, have that conversation and try to determine how can we do it our way.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I like that. I feel like. Oh no, please. Go.
One last thing.
Jerry, this is.
It is your show.
This is Jerry's show.
I'm very generous.
Okay. One last question that I will. I was taken away from.
That was awesome.
That was amazing.
My church now.
That's awesome.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. One last question I'll give you to put in your tool belt is to regularly check in and ask each other, how are you experiencing our marriage?
Okay, time out. Open your phone. Open your phone or write this on the response card and put it in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Yeah. So how are you experiencing our marriage right now? The goal is that both people in the marriage that need to be able to experience it in a way that feels good to them, not the more dominant personality or the quieter personality or anything like that. How can you both experience your marriage in a way that feels good?
So good.
Go.
This is just bringing in the conversations I hear sometimes where I've had friends, coworkers talk about their marriage in ways that you just don't want to hear, where it's this idea of now I can't do this because my wife said this, or my husband needs this from me, so I can't do. It should be this idea of exactly what Casey and Aimee are talking about building each other up and making each other better together, because that's what marriage is about. It's about growing both of you and making you one great thing. I mean, come on, caramel, apples, both okay, but caramel apples, right?
Good.
You know what? I want to talk about the importance and the role that God plays within marriage. How do you stay connected to God throughout the demands of everyday life? Help us with that.
It's good.
You want me to go?
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, I did not invent what I'm about to say, okay? In fact, I've seen it over and over again. But marriage can be represented by a triangle with the husband and the wife at the base of the triangle and God at the top of the triangle, okay? And while marriage is this beautiful thing where the husband and the wife connect at a new level, a Christian marriage with God at the top can allow us, as we get closer to God, we actually get closer to each other, okay? Now, this isn't a pulley system where I use my side to pull my spouse closer to God. I can't control that, okay? The other aspect is, and I'll maybe let you, maybe you can talk about how we connect with God differently than kind of the Christian ideal, okay? The other part of this is, well, what if I don't have a Christian marriage? Like, what if I'm married and I'm a Christian and my spouse is not a Christian? What's my role? Well, I would say this. Your role is to love your spouse. Do all the one another's in the New Testament, right? Serve one another, love one another, support one another, forgive one another, okay? Do all that stuff. Focus on your own relationship with God. Pray for your spouse. Engage your spouse in conversations regarding church attendance, moral standards, parenting. Again, it doesn't help if you play the, well, I'm more mature than you card in your marriage, okay? It's only going to push the other person away, okay? There's something beautiful for those of you who either, I'm not going to read it right now, but I'll give it to you. There's a beautiful passage in the New Testament. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 6 through 12, talks about the role of the believing spouse in the middle of a marriage where one spouse is believing and the other is not. And you have a ton of influence, but utilize your influence in a way that's humble and not controlling. Yeah. Hey, well, I'm a Christian, so we have to go to church. Well, your spouse has a life, okay? And you can't control where they are with God, okay? There's just a couple things.
Yeah, that's good. What was the question?
That
was really good.
Talk to us about the importance and role that God plays within marriage and how you stay connected to God throughout the demands of life. While you're busy, while things are crazy, how do you stay connected with God?
Yeah, I think two parts of that. I think one is make a priority of connecting with God, for sure. But I also think that looks different for everybody, and there are many ways that you can connect with God. I think one of the dangers is to think I have to do it just like He does, or He has to do it just like I do, or again, when it comes to expectations, to place any of that upon Him. I think one of the things that is important, and I'll just throw this out there even as parents, is make it visible when you're spending time with God. Show your kids how you spend time with God. He does a great job of that in the chair right in our...
I make an announcement every morning, hey children, I'm spending time with God. I don't, I'm kidding.
But the point is to be able to make a priority, put it in your routine for sure, but then you can also figure out how your heart connects with God. Is it nature? Is it going on a walk? Is it worship? Create space for those kinds of things. And then honor the way that your spouse connects with God without putting any pressure on them to do things the way that you want them to or you think that they should.
Yeah, I'll also say this. There is this Christian ideal that a husband and wife should spend time with God together, okay? Now, Aimee and I tried this Christian ideal early on in our marriage, and it was weird and awkward. It did not work very well. You know, it just was weird, okay? And while I think praying together is a healthy rhythm to instill into your marriage, I think sometimes, in fact, I was talking to a young man the other day, and I said, hey, how do you need to connect with the Lord? And he said, hey, well, one of the things that we used to do as a couple was we used to read the Bible together, and we've kind of lost that rhythm, and we need to re-engage. And it seemed like the husband and the wife both value that time, and it was good for them. And they should do that, right? But if you're like Aimee and I, it might just feel a little weird and distracting, right? And so Aimee will oftentimes, hey, what do you need? Do you need to spend, do you need to get away? And we encourage each other to hang out with God, but we primarily spend time in the scriptures, journaling or worship or however that looks, separately. And that really is valuable to us.
Yeah, and it's not that awkwardness isn't to be worked through at times. I think we just realized that there is this unspoken expectation that maybe we were supposed to do it because you hear it. And we were able to realize that, yes, we do pray together at times, and we just don't have devotionals where we sit down and spend time with God together. And that's okay for us, and it's great for you who want to do that.
So, boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, wives, people in relationships in here. You ever experience that moment of tension when you're like, where do you want to go out to eat tonight? Where do you want to go out to eat tonight? I don't know. That fight, that little bicker is so tough, right? And it's such a small little bit of tension. But making decisions, both big and small, can be a point of tension within marriage.
Yeah.
Right? Big and small. As crazy as it sounds. So how do you guys make decisions as a couple? How do you make decisions when you disagree, especially, honestly? I think that's what's going to be most helpful for us.
Yeah, I got a couple thoughts. So I think again, two parts. One would be recognizing the areas that your partner, I want to say the right word in, I could say leads in or has a natural gifting for. In our marriage, one example would be I, in the beginning of our marriage, did our finances. And I'm not super organized. And I am not somebody who has a lot of
Math skills.
Okay, true. And so we realized, I don't know how many years ago, but he's really good at the spreadsheets and the organizing and the budgets and the whatever. And so he goes in and he does all of that in a way that creates freedom for me and freedom for him and comfort for him. And so there's an area that he has that he just naturally is more skilled in when it comes to budgeting. There's a level of maybe emotional awareness that that may have been the wrong word.
It might have been the right one.
When it comes to our parenting and our kids, there's things I see in our kids that's going on that's beyond the surface. So like if they're throwing a fit, like there might be something going on under there that's not just, oh, I need to correct this behavior. That's what I mean. So there's a level that he looks to me at times when it comes to decision making, maybe in our parenting, it's like, okay, let's figure out how we navigate through this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, almost like recognizing and championing each other's skills and attributes, right?
Yes, that you can lean into when it comes to making decisions. Then the other thing I would say is really kind of figuring out your goal. What is your goal when you're making a decision? your goal for your family, your goal in the marriage, not just taking moment by moment and thinking, how can I win this decision, or how can I get what I want out of this decision, but having more of a goal out there as to why we're making this decision. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
A tool that I'll often use, and I tend to use this, is my passion level high, medium, or low? Oftentimes it's like, and I can express all my opinions as if they were high passion, but sometimes my passion is like, oh yeah, I'm not really that passionate about it. How passionate are you? And if she says, well, I'm like medium passionate, it's like, okay, we'll do it your way, kind of a thing. But this is again where the usness comes into play. Like, how are we gonna do it? Disciplining your children, where are we gonna go for dinner? I go out to eat pretty much every day. She rarely gets to go out to eat, so she pretty much makes the decision about where we go to eat. I know this is like a minor issue, but she pretty much makes the decision of where we go to eat on our date night, because I have super low passion and, that sort of thing. So high, medium, and low passion level, it can be helpful.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I'll just say too, I know I've heard the question of when it comes, who's the deal breaker? Like if you have a really big decision, who's the deal breaker? I don't think we have ever had a situation where we've come to heads and it just, and maybe because of the high passion, low passion, like we've utilized that. But when we have a goal, or we're praying through it together, or using some of these skills to lean into that usness, we have never come to a place where it's like head in the sand, we're stuck,
I would even say this. I went so practical, but on our big decisions, we literally, like adopting Solo, moving to California to start a brand new church. All those decisions are like literally bathed in prayer.
Yeah.
We fast. We invite other people to pray with us. Obviously, where do we go out to dinner is a super small thing, but on the bigger things, we take weeks at times to pray for something. And I'll tell you that when we've done that, we've come out on the same side as each other on those big decisions. So it's never been, well, I'm more passionate about moving to California to start a new church, right? There's always been a beautiful unity, and I think that comes from both the humility as you enter into that decision-making process, as well as the leadership of God in some of those big deals.
Yeah, that's good.
I love what Casey said too about how, what you alluded at, I guess, how marriage doesn't just have to be between you two, but remembering that you have a community and a family that's a part of that marriage too, and remembering that you can lean on them as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's good.
I always like to leave tips as well. I'm feeling a little left out because they're giving you so many good tips. So I got one for you. You know that little fight, that little conversation, that little bicker about where to eat out? I love that they already have a solution, but I got one for you if you've ever needed one. Have you ever heard of the 3-2-1 rule? Anybody in here?
No.
3-2-1 rule? Oh, I got you. If you just can't decide where to go, your wife doesn't know, you don't know, you say, okay, well, give me 3 places. I don't know, Chick-fil-A, In-N-Out, Phil's Barbecue. And then the other person has to narrow it down to 2 choices. And then the last person gets to finalize down to the 1 choice. So there's still choices to choose from.
You've done that to me, bro.
Yeah.
You've done that to me.
So indecisive in our marriage.
That's different.
That's good.
All right, I got one for you. Here we go. This one I love. What are some new things that you've actually learned about each other over time? Throughout your marriage, what are some new things?
Oh, you got this.
Okay. What are some new things? Here's some things that I'm learning right now. I am learning, just on a fun level, I'm learning that you have a beautiful eye for design. so much of kind of the layout and the beautification of, you know, transforming this school into what is, yeah, is your eye. Honestly, it's developed, right? It's developed for sure. She used to piecemeal things together, and it's like, that lamp's cool, and so is the picture, but they don't match. And she's developed. Anyway, that's one of the things that I've learned about you recently.
Yeah. You know, I don't know if this is super new as much as it is something I really appreciate about you. Is you, and I think that it's morphed in a really healthy way. Is your desire to always grow and be the best version of yourself, but in a way that makes people better around you. And there's this whole other deeper level of like inward awareness and room and space that you've given to allow God to work on the inside of you that has just created just a really well-rounded version of Casey that I really enjoy.
Thank you.
How sweet that we got to be a part of this moment.
I totally won this question. Not that I answered it better, but you answered it better about me.
Okay.
All right, I have one last question for you all.
Okay.
And then I want to give you a chance to share out anything else you want in the context of marriage with the church and just give you that opportunity. All right, here's your last question for you. What feels easy about marriage? But even more importantly, what feels hard about marriage? I'll give you 10 seconds.
10 seconds. Okay, for me, what feels easy about marriage is creating space for Casey to be and do anything that he needs to do to find rest, to find joy. If he needs to go away and go to a monastery, which is one of the things he really loves to do.
We are fun.
Go hang out with his buddies. It's very easy for me to prioritize that and create space for that because I
Monastery.
know how good it is for him and how meaningful it is. There is a back and forth between the two of us that just feels pretty easy and probably developed over 18 years now. But that part feels easy to me.
I'm going to go with really enjoyable as opposed to easy. One of the things that is really enjoyable has been navigating parenting together. I literally believe I'm a better parent because of Aimee. And just kind of like, when it comes to parenting, you parent in different seasons because your kids change and grow into different seasons of childhood and development. And so what they need from you is different. We literally right now have like 3 kids in 3 different major stages of development. And so it's like, it's so fun to like, be like, we're watching stages, we're watching kids graduate from one stage to another. Literally, like even yesterday, I'm like looking at Aimee and we're like, oh my gosh, we're jumping into a new stage. How do we navigate this? And it's just been really fun. It's just been really fun. And I think part of that, and I'm not going to share our parenting goal with you until next week. So you'll have to come back next week because I'm going to share with you our parenting goal. Okay? Our number 1 priority is parents. But because I think our parenting goal is like, I think on point with Jesus-y stuff, I think it's just made it so much fun because it's like, that's our target. Okay, so how do we navigate this thing, this situation, this stage, this child with that target in mind? And so that's been really
I think
enjoyable.
It's allowed us to be teammates in a way that we didn't even necessarily know was possible.
Yeah, for sure.
It's good.
For sure.
I love that. Well, I want to give you all the chance to have the floor to share anything else that you feel like might help the church out in the context of marriage, any other tips or suggestions, just anything you have.
Yeah.
I have one more thing, but I think we need to wrap this part up
I got you.
and let these guys go. So will you pray for us? I'm sorry that this is your show,
Okay.
but I want to share something with them. So go ahead.
All right, here we go. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for letting me live out my dream as a talk show host, giving us this opportunity to just peer into the marriage of our pastors, Casey and Aimee. I just want to thank you for marriage and life and this family that's right here in this room with us.
Yeah.
Lord, I want to pray for this space, this moment, the things that we've heard. And I just want to thank you for your wisdom, Lord, that you guide us in our marriages and our relationships, that you help us see what's right and what's wrong. And Lord, I just pray that you continue to be here for each and every single one of us that's in this room. In your name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Can we thank Jerry for running an awesome show? Oh, you guys are the best church. What church thinks about cheering Jerry at a church? Man. I want to highlight something that I think is fairly glorified in Christian church without. Let me just say it this way. I'm hesitant to share what I'm about to share because it's so ingrained in church culture. But I was watching a show the other day, and a Christian woman was asked, "What is the role of a wife?" What do you think she said? The first thing out of her mouth was, "To submit to my husband." Now, I don't know about you, but that made me throw up in my mouth a little bit. And here's why. The Bible has a lot to say about the role of a husband and the wife. In fact, did you know there are 59 one another's in the New Testament alone? She could have said any one of those. She could have listed out 3 or 4 or 5 different things, but the one thing that came to her mind was, I need to submit to my husband. And I think in so many ways, it's become very, very unhealthy because of a bunch of different reasons I'm not willing to get into right now, okay? I'm not saying Ephesians 5, by the way. It comes from Ephesians 5. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's there's an error there. But I will point out that right before it says, women submit, wives submit to your husbands, it says submit to one another in the sentence before. Okay? Just pointing that out. But I was reading Philippians just the other day, and it came to my mind, why don't we ever think about Philippians chapter 2 when it comes to marriage? Let me read it. It'll pop up here on the screen. It says this, in your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus. Okay? I mean, don't you think it would be a healthy way to envision marriage? Like, I should have the same mindset as Jesus Christ in my marriage. Be a healthy way to begin. Who, being in the very nature of God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking on the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness and being found in appearance as a man, and he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on the cross. Therefore, God exalted him to the highest place and gave him the name that is above every name, that at the name of Jesus every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue acknowledge that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. Now, so much of what happened up here I think was meaningful, but I want to assure you it's not about Casey and Aimee. Marriage is not about Casey and Aimee. This church is not about Casey and Aimee. We are about Jesus. Okay? As I was reading through this and I was thinking through the lens of marriage, I was like, man, what would it look like if I was a husband with the mindset of Christ in my marriage? What would it look like as a wife with the mindset of Christ in marriage? And so I walked through it several times prayerfully, and I realized, man, there are some promises in here that I can make to my wife and my wife can make to me. And you as a wife can make to your husband and your husband can make to you. So I want to share those with you right now. Promise number 1. We have those promises up here. Promise number 1. I promise to use my strengths for our benefit. Right? So often we want our wife or our spouse to use their strengths for my benefit. Or we make the mistake of saying, I'm going to use my strengths for their benefit. But what if we had our usness in mind? I'm going to use my strengths for the benefit of our marriage. Promise number 2. I promise to serve you even when it's difficult.
Amen. That's good.
Not the wife to the husband only, but the husband to the wife.
Amen.
Promise number 3. I promise to grow in humility by submitting myself to God's leadership. I would say, if we're going to talk about submission, wives need to submit to God before they submit to their husband. And husbands need to submit to their God before they submit to their wife.
Yep.
Number 4. I promise to stay low and allow you and God to lift me up. I'm going to stay low here. You seem passionate about it. I'm going to stay low. Promise number 5. I like this one. I promise to lift you up. I promise to lift you up. I think right now we have a unique moment, and I know not everybody in this room is married. But if you're interested right now at saying, hey, I don't know how all this is going to work, but I want to make these 5 promises to you right now, I'm going to invite you and your spouse to stand up right now. Come on. Come on. This is bold. All right. Now, whenever I'm doing a wedding, I have the bride and the groom looking at each other. So I want you to reposition your faces and your bodies towards one another. Come on, baby. And I want to work together. And gentlemen, look in your wife's eyes and say it with me. Promise number 1, I promise to use my strengths for our benefit.
That's good.
Promise number 2, I promise to serve you even when it's difficult. Promise number 3, I promise to grow in humility by submitting myself to God's leadership. Promise 4, I promise to stay low and allow you and God to lift me up. And promise number 5, I promise to lift you up.
Good. We're doing the ladies now?
Ladies,
Ladies.
Amy did not know we were doing this.
I didn't know that we were doing this, but I need to see the screen because I didn't write these questions. All right, ladies. Promise number 1. I promise to use my strengths for our benefit. Number 2. I promise to serve you even when it's difficult. Number 3, I promise to grow in humility by submitting myself to God's leadership. Number 4, I promise to stay low and allow you and God to lift me up. And number 5, last but not least, I promise to lift you up.
All right, you can hit the reset button by kissing your wife. All right, hey, one more round of applause for these married couples. Hey, good job. That had to have been a little awkward for people who were not looking at their spouse, but we've all been to a wedding or two, right? All right. Hey, I got a couple of announcements. Great job, by the way. Did you like this? Was this okay? It's a little bit different. Hey, I want to remind you, if you're new with us this morning, I want to encourage you to take your response card, fill it out, just a phone number, email, your name. You don't have to fill the whole thing out. Bring it to the White Connect tent. Aimee and I would love to meet you personally and give you a little thank you gift. Also, this Friday night, this is on your chair. This Friday night in Rancho Bella Vista Park, just a stone's throw away, we're having a movie night in the park. Everything is free. We got popcorn, cotton candy, which is always a fan favorite, sodas, water. We have a bounce house and a balloon artist coming. Everything is free. We want you to come. We want you to invite your friends. And if you're available to help pull this thing off, we would actually love you to help volunteer. And you can write that on your response card that you're available that night. Also, on June 25th, that's 2 weeks away. Of course, we're going to celebrate Dad's next week, by the way. So come back. We have like all you can drink Dad's root beer and big hunk candy bars or something. But on June 25th, we are celebrating our kids who are moving up to the next class level here at the Refinery. And we're having a superhero theme with that. Superhero theme. So here's what I want to encourage you to do. Wear or represent your favorite superheroes, okay? We want your kids to be dressed up. We're going to have a little kind of a superhero parade through the auditorium at one point during the service. We want you to wear your favorite superhero t-shirts. We just want to make it a little bit fun as we celebrate these kiddos graduating onto their next classes, okay? That's in 2 Sundays from now. Did you have fun today? Was today meaningful? Awesome. All right, I want you to have a great week. We'll see you Friday at 7 o'clock at Rancho Bella Vista Park. On your mark, get set, go.